Hey everybody, it's Marty, the JavaScript party. I'm Buddy Rhett. How you doing, girl? Here we go. Here's a nut for you. And so man, I was looking at my video yesterday. I did not feel like I'd say starting around noon yesterday, 1 o'clock. I just started feeling really bad, and then I felt sick the whole day until like I still felt pretty sick at like 9 at night. And usually I go to bed at 9 at night. I kind of slept for a couple hours and then all that. It's kind of a bummer because it was my son's birthday and we usually play frisbee on Saturdays, so I was kind of looking forward to playing with him, but I just was not up to it. And then he had like a kind of a shindig at his house at starting at like 8 o'clock, and we were gonna kind of drop by and bring him a cookie cake and go to and just say hi and bye and kind of head home and go to sleep. But we definitely did not. I did not feel well. My wife didn't feel great either. So that was that. That's so unfortunate. Yeah, I did feel like I feel like I'm 18 years old. Like most of the time, I feel like I do not feel an age. Um, but I had this thought that made me feel really old, and it was like, oh, thank God I'm sick on the weekend, so I don't have to sit there um, sick while I'm working. It's just like, holy crap. Because I remember when I used to be like, hey, work sucks, so I'm glad I was sick. If you're gonna, if life's gonna suck, you might as well be sick while it's sucking, and then on the weekends you can have fun. So that was a little different. But anyways, I think we're making good progress here. I will say that like this what we're doing with continuous is kind of weird because like we don't know I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like I've never worked with this before. It's very very new technology, and not only is it new technology, but you could tell it's kind of half baked technology, and you could tell it's sort of in a awkward state. So we're trying to work with this awkward code with no experience with awkward code. So we're just sort of filling around and trying to understand what's working. And then on top of that, we have this effect thing going on, and I'm not particularly comfortable in that either. So we're just trying to fill around, trying to understand how things work, um, and that is a big part of sort of living on the edge with software development. Um, I think we worked with Discrete and learned a bunch of stuff on Discrete, and then it was really cool. It really was, and we came up with some pretty good ideas of possible implementations. Once we understand that, now we moved to continuous, and in some ways, like working through Discrete was advantageous, but in some ways, um, it was like unadvantageous. It was a disadvantage because there was certain things, certain understandings that no longer hold. Um, and like kind of one of the basic realities of Discrete is you get a result, and then that result was because it started. Like you wouldn't have ever got a result if it didn't start, so you know there was a start, and you won't get another result. It's going to end. So like you can write a lot of code in a lot of ways and just leave a lot of stuff off. Well, continuous doesn't work that way. Someone starts it, they you get results, and then they stop it, and then you get you may get another start with other results. And so I think since we don't really understand exactly what's going on, because there was something there, it is a bit awkward, Discrete the way you get multiple items and stuff like that is different than the way in continuous. But it seems like we right now. Well, so right now, all I'm trying to do is just sort of try things, just sort of validate that the way I understand things work is how those things work. So that's what we're doing here. Um, so right now, I know that yeah, as of yesterday, I could capture when it starts and when it ends. Right. So started, started. So that's not even working for some reason. We're not getting any results, or at least yesterday. Because like, oh no, started is true. I don't know what happened. And then ended. And then if we hit false, we stop it, then we get the end. So I think what would be useful now is like a count. And so we're going to have different kinds of counts because the thing is sometimes we're going to get results and sometimes we're going to get a start signal and sometimes we're going to get an end signal. But every single time one of those happens, all of this code's going to fire. Um, so like you would you could be forgiven for believing that, hey, this result is going to get populated every time I get a result. But no, it's going to get populated whenever there's a start signal, when there's a result, and when there's an end signal. And so is start signal. Start signal is going to get populated every single one of those times. So we have something that's just like basically what we've done is we've subscribed to three different signals. And we sort of did like an inference subscription by asking for it. When you ask for it, you automatically you get auto enrolled. It's kind of like early on, you ask for an email, and next thing you know, you were just enrolled um, in their service of their email subscription, and then you were automatically enrolled in it. Anyways, the idea is that there's a sort of automatic enrollment that you get by creating one of these effects and then asking for a signal or enrolling in all three of them. But we don't know. I don't think there's any way to know which one of these signals, or if it was only one, um, was the initiator of the signaling. Maybe there is, but I don't think there is a way. Um, so, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a signal count. Signal count. And it's going to be set to 0. And basically, anytime this effect calls, we're going to increment the signal count. So, I think what we're going to do is signal this dot signal count this dot signal count plus 1. Now this does exactly what I expected to do. Signal count plus plus or plus plus signal count. I've never really dug into exactly what the differences is. It's something that I always sort of look up before I do an interview, because it is on a lot of interviews and things like that. Like, oh, what would this do versus this if there's a plus plus and then or before, after, and stuff like that. So, but for some reason, I learn that all the time, and it just never sticks. Just for some reason, my brain has not decided it was useful. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new thing over here, and really all we're trying to do is just get a kind of a deeper understanding of signals, really. Okay, so now I'm just gonna sit back and I'm just kind of gonna, in my brain, just be like, okay, what do I expect to happen? And what I think is gonna happen is signal count will be 1 when started goes to false, started goes to true. But I don't think there'll be any requests. And then every time I do a pause and I talk, I'll get another signal count. And I think that's the rests coming in, the request coming in, and then I'll hit stop and I'll get another signal count. And that, I'm not sure if we get a request at that point or a signal. And I don't know, like, since it's a Boolean, I don't think there's any good way to for these two, I don't think, or yeah, for these two, I don't think there's any good way to even determine like what's going on. Maybe we could add a time to it or something. I'm not sure. Not sure if that even exists. And then actually, okay, so we already got a signal. And we haven't even done anything yet, right? So basically, we got a signal, and started is false and end is false. So I think when I hit this, if I don't say anything, start will go to true, signal count will go to 2, and ended will stay at false. And then if I talk, every time I talk and pause, we'll do that again. Hello. How are you? Yeah, so we ended up with one for started, one for ended, and 12 for um, request. Or for, no, 11 for the request. And um, so, and then we actually took the value of this guy, and we took the value of that guy, but we don't really know anything about the request. So let's do that next. And I don't know what. Let's go look to see what this thing. I think it's a continuous result is what that thing we defined it as. I don't know. This tool is not helping us here. Let's go to speech surface. And then, so we get a continuous result array. Hit this little back arrow button there. All right, so then what we're going to do is we are going to put this in a div here. Let's just go ahead and just put a little space there so we can kind of visual cue. I thought that's what we called that thing. Oh, let me do this. Just make sure that that's wired up, and then. And I don't really know what the implications of, like, let's say I say this dot current request is equal to this, or this. Like, is there a difference? So behind the scenes, is something different happening if I request it as a signal? Like, do I end up getting like double stuff, or like what? But for now, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to just say, here's my result, set my current request. Like I said, I don't know what the implication of this is. And then I don't even know that if whatever it does, like let's say now I get double the number of calls because I called this thing twice. Would it always be that way, or is that something that is changing? I don't know. So I just think if this is safer, it's very likely that what this does versus what will probably always stay the same versus what this does. That is very likely to go through some modifications over time. Who knows? There's no telling. But so we got our current request, and that's an array. Now I should just get like an object over here. It's weird though, because I was kind of expecting to see something. Oh, but I guess it would be underneath. Hello. Yeah, so I don't know what current request is, but see, it is an array, and it's interesting because it changes lengths. So that is interesting to know. I don't think I can just do this. Let me see. Most places I work, you can just do that, and that works. but that does not work in this space. And I think it's because we need to import something called common module, I believe. And then it brought that in. But this is, I kind of like these to be up here, closer to, like the more core it is, I think I like it to be more, I don't know. Not exactly sure. So let's try this. So we got an array there. I actually would rather this be flex. And I don't want to keep any of this, so what should happen is we should end up with it side to side, yeah. Hello. How are you? So that is cool. Let's see, we'll stop it. So this is the current one. And this is everything that came back. So transcript is hello, and then we got a second one with how are you. Okay, so this is an array. So what we can do is we could do this. At for, it's kind of hard because like everything I do professionally, we use ng for. Request of current. Yeah, I'm not doing that. Let's see. I think I'm already using this probably in the discrete component, discrete result, I would guess. Yeah, at for result of, and then track. Ooh, I was pretty close. Although PF was definitely wrong. Of current request, and then track by index. I don't know. Wrong one. And we will just one more. There we go. Track index. So now we want to do each request like that. Oh, REQ, each REQ. Hello, how are you? So that is starting to look a little bit more interesting. Hello, how are you? One, all transcripts. Hello, how are you? So basically, yeah, for some reason okay. That was interesting. So now let's go ahead and put this inside of a table. So we get the little, it looks like we only got one, but I think before we were getting more than one request. And again, all we're trying to do is learn here. This is pure exploration. Because, you know, like sometimes you just don't know what you're doing. And this is one of those times. And not only do we not know what we're doing with this continuous, but we don't necessarily know what we're doing with signals either. So we've kind of got two layers of exploratory stuff, and it's super important to sort of know when, you know, like tease out the different technologies that you're interacting with. Hello, how are you? What is going on? So that is interesting. So I feel like we had okay, so basically there was some point at the very end. It seems like the very last signal gave us like everything all sort of concatenated together. So what I want to do is see all transcripts. Okay, what I want to do now up here is because it's weird. I'm not quite getting. It's not clear to me how many. Like it is. It's a little weird the way the that's working. Okay, so false, and we're getting 0 records. Hello, how are you? What's going on? Okay, so we did get 2 records, um, but it feels like well, and there's the first. But it seems like we're only seeing one, right? Like, I think. Oh, silly rabbit. I just put one table all the way around both. And so I'm here sitting there thinking I'm going to see um, rows. I may not even need the first one anymore. Hello, how are you? What is your name? So we got our 2 records. The first one says, hello, how are you? The second one says, what are your name? I think if I waited longer, though, that they would have kind of coalesced into one record. So let's see how that works. Hello, how are you? What is your name? What is going on? Oh, interesting. So, hello, how are you? What is your name? What is going on? So we got 3 records. So, oh, it's all about the pauses and stuff like that. Um, I think that is still bringing um, value. I don't think it doesn't. So all transcripts doesn't seems to always have one transcript in it. I wonder if it stayed that way though. Um, so what I want to do there is change this to a call span of 2, and then I want to add another TD in here, and then I want to put request.transcript over here, and then request there. Is that right? Okay, I want to add one more. And add the count. The all transcripts count. Length? Is it called length? It's length, right? I don't think this needs to be a JSON, and this one doesn't need to be a JSON. And I'm curious if this is just always 1, no matter what. Hello, how are you? What is your name? I guess I should have watched that one though. Hello, how are you? What is your name? So that's always one over here. No matter what happens, the all transcripts count is always one. So that is interesting and useful, I think. Let's do this one. Cross dot all transcripts. Hello, how are you? What is your name? Okay, so that is weird. Let me hit stop. So this one, interestingly, like, okay, so this is the current, but this is the very first thing. So my guess is that I'm doing something wrong on the all transcripts part, wherever I put together the all transcripts, because see, it always has the very first thing, but it seems like this one should have been hello, how are you, and then what is your name, and then it seems like all we're getting is the very first one. So let's go ahead and look at that real quick. Let's see, all transcripts. See, over here, it seems like there's something wrong in here. And it seems like I'm using the result transcript instead of something else. So I think this is our problem. Let's do this, console.log. Bug here. Like there should be multiples. So I guess that's what I will work on next Sunday or Saturday. So anyways, that's pretty good. What do we, 28 minutes? That's not a crazy long video, but looks like we're making pretty good results here. That is interesting though, is okay, so like, yeah, anyways, yeah, I think this first one seems to be right, whatever we're doing there for transcripts. Oh, for first, so that is interesting too, because first transcript seems to be results 0, 0, but the results array is results 0, but maybe it should just be results. I don't know. So yeah, it looks like we need to do a little bit of work in here. Looks like our data's not quite right. So that's for next week. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.